What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin price chart. Of course, we will incorporate in the altcoin market. But in this video in particular, I wanted to talk about something that I see going on with Bitcoin. I discussed this in Markets in the Morning today, but I also wanted to incorporate in some on-chain data that we've discussed in the past and tie that into the things that we've been talking about for the last several months on why the top of Bitcoin may be closer than people think for the whole cryptocurrency market. That's actually something you kind of cheer for. Historically, as that top is coming in, that's where the altcoin market tends to really outperform. And when we see the dominance truly fall, but price is acting familiar to what I've seen Bitcoin do before, especially back in 2021. And there are some things on chain that are happening that are similar to 2021. Don't be mistaken in thinking that this is a super bearish video. These are actually the things that have historically happened before things get really exciting in the market, but it paints the picture that maybe there's not a whole lot left in Bitcoin's price appreciation. I've talked about that for a measured move. My idea would be like maybe $107,000 for Bitcoin based on this idea that we've talked about for the last several months. That was originally brought up in this video on November 30th of 2023, where we looked at the price of Bitcoin from the inverse perspective, and that it would make sense that in 2024, we'd see really just a lot of waddling sideways happening in here, which ultimately led to the fall, which in this circumstance, leading to the fall, since it's inverted, leads to the breakup. But a measured move in this is waves of near equal length. And with where Bitcoin is at right now, a wave of near equal length gets you pretty close there to $107,000, $108,000. But as I brought up in Markets in the Morning, and like I've discussed in past newsletters before, a lot of the action that we've seen right here for Bitcoin starting in March of this year is very similar to the behavior we saw with Bitcoin back in January of 2021. In particular, on-chain activity. This is the value days destroyed multiple over here on Glassnode, which I'm not sponsored by. It compares near-term spending behavior to the yearly average as a means of detecting overheated and undervalued markets. Its effectiveness is due to the nature of how market tops are formed via the increased spending of older coins that eventually overpower demand, ending euphoric bull runs. Conversely, as older coins remain dormant and accumulation begins, the metric will decline and bottom during capitulation events in periods of accumulation. I've talked about this on the channel before. It was brought up over there in the newsletter as well, that when we got there in March, old coins came out of the woodwork, made their way into the market to get sold. It's actually normal behavior to see. And while, like we're talking about right here in 2024, and like we're talking about over here in 2021, it's the same behavior we saw both times. Bitcoin came out of the woodwork to get sold at that rally right there in January of 2021, which is right here. And Bitcoin came out of the woodwork to get sold right here in March and April of 2024, which is right here. But what we've seen with this is that in the past bull runs, that occurs right before kind of the last rally happens in Bitcoin. Whenever it hits that 4.0 print, you could see it happens even right here in 2017 before the last correction before Bitcoin goes parabolic. And then it happens in the last correction before Bitcoin goes parabolic and ends. And then we have it happen here as well. 4.0. Structurally, they even look incredibly similar to each other as well. After they break out, they back test, waddles at the bottom, break after a declining channel, which they both have. Now, what was interesting about Bitcoin from here is really we didn't see a whole lot more in regards to price action after that point. It really became strong distribution at this point. And these moments all throughout here is where the altcoin market goes wild. But is there any other on-chain data pointing to something similar between these moments? One other topic we've discussed is looking at wallets with greater than 10 Bitcoin, because really they're the one subset group that gave a pretty clear view into what was going on back then. And what we could see here in 2021 is this is that January rally right here that we're talking about all throughout here. And you could see wallets with greater than 10 Bitcoin were selling off into this. And as this next rally came in, they continued selling off. Notice they weren't selling off into the rise up until it got to the all-time high. Once the all-time high was cleared, boom, wallets with greater than 10 Bitcoin started distributing onto the retail crowd. Now, moving forward here to 2024, we could see that as October came in, these wallets with greater than 10 Bitcoin started distributing into this rally. Now, if you look back here, back into 2021 and 2022, they kind of stayed down here until finally Luna collapsed, Celsius collapsed, and boom, they came in and scooped up the market. And then when FTX collapsed, boom, they bought the market. The smart money. Remember, retail is screaming for 12K at that time. Not the smart money. They came in scooping it up. But as the price rises and everybody gets really excited, they're over here selling. And so what is happening now, right? Notice the new break into the high, the selling continues and gets more aggressive. Well, look to now, right? It stalls out here. And then now with this new move, the wallets greater than 10 are continuing to sell, just as they were back here. You can look at the level at which they're at right now. They've come down pretty far. Go back and see where they were, right? Tops out at almost the same level as back here. And then now we're all the way down to these levels here with wallets greater than 10. So it's like they're in clear distribution happening in here. You would expect to see that behavior happening here as this thing is topping. Zoom in a little bit closer and you could see that break. They said, nope, we're selling into that. Now, that's okay for the rest of the market because it was those points where there just wasn't much left in Bitcoin where everything rotated around and it went crazy throughout the whole market. But this type of behavior, well, they don't have very far to go to just get to the FTX levels. Look at the FTX levels. They were right here. That's what the bottom of the market is. They're almost back down to where they were there. And so on chain, you're seeing similar behaviors to these two moments as well as if you're right in here. Personally, I don't think we'll make the exact same structure as we made back in 2021. This was quite unique. Conceptually, it makes sense. Essentially, this is the first major profit take that happens, and then it goes on to go poke for the actual high. Usually tops do look like that. Just this was really drawn out. However, the altcoin market went absolutely nutty in this period where Bitcoin pushes to the new all-time high and then goes completely nutty into the 702 Fibonacci retracement level, just like it did back in 2017. Considering a measured move puts you at about $107,000, $108,000, it would make logical sense to me that we're probably starting to form this up in here. Again, that's super exciting for the rest of the market, but for Bitcoin, it seems like it's probably going to be running out of steam pretty soon if this is correct. And if this is correct, and if this is correct. And well, if this idea is correct and these things are moving on similar timetables as they have been in here, right? I mean, this only gets you out to March, which is 4 months away. And while this whole region in here, this thing only lasts for 93 days. So just on timetables of where we're at, it's not crazy. If this did move at the rate that it's moving at, it would not be crazy for this whole market to come to a conclusion by March, which would not be crazy for any of this to be happening here or for any of this to be happening in here. And that distribution could go ahead and start beginning for Bitcoin. It would make sense. 4 months of distribution for Bitcoin makes perfect sense to me. And that's really kind of what you would be looking for at this phase if that's where you would be at. Because when you go back and look at the Bitcoin dominance from back then, which is this time period that we're talking about right in here. Well, what was Bitcoin doing? Well, Bitcoin had just done that big break. And where was it? It was right here, right there, which is right here, like we keep talking about. It was right there. And the crazy all happens in here and concludes on that retrace right there. And if you'd like to see that in the perspective of the altcoins and why, if you're an altcoiner, you may actually be cheering for that, is you can look to that moment right there. And where was the altcoin market at that time? It was right here. Go back and you'll see that the altcoin market was merely into a retracement at that time. Where? At its 702 Fibonacci retracement. So it was shortly after that the breakout really came for the altcoin market, and all the crazy that ended up happening in the altcoin market came during that time period right there. That's where expansion came in and all the crazy happened when distribution was starting for Bitcoin. And this chart and this 702 right here is for total 3, which is the altcoin market excluding Ethereum. Well, where's the altcoin market now, or total 3? 702 retracement. So food for thought. It's interesting. A very similar price action, similar on-chain behavior, getting close to that 107, 108 measured move. We'll see if any of that pans out. But it's also showing up really around the same time where this stuff was happening at as well, back in 2020 and 2021. And for those who believe in 4-year cycles, the reality is this market peaked back in April of 2021. And the altcoin market, over 90% of it did in May of 2021. And that 4 years is much closer than most people think. And it's just kind of a friendly reminder that things happen a lot faster than we think. And typically people are looking to some type of bias to say things are going to last a lot longer than they do. But while breadth is opened up, while the market's acting great, it's also important to kind of keep that big picture perspective at the same time. And so when we look at Bitcoin, Bitcoiners may think of this as being like, oh, that's bearish for Bitcoin. I look at it from the big puzzle. Like, what does the big puzzle need to look like for the whole market to go? And that's usually a lot of rotation happening. It's a lot of capital rotating. It's a lot of money flooding from Bitcoin, going to altcoins and things like that. And what do those setups need to look like, right? We could sit here and talk about others trying to break through the 702 retracement all we want, but you got to look to the rest of the market and say, well, there are conditions that are like that. And well, you can see that over there on Bitcoin. And that was the similar condition for what it took to actually get out. So for Bitcoiners, maybe not the best news in the world. For everybody else, it should be pretty good news. So we'll keep our eyes on it. We'll keep tracking it. And hopefully things just keep chugging along. But all right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. I hope you guys have had a great day. Of course, you could check out my newsletter over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. This one really dives into whether or not this breakout has legs to it by looking at confluence factors in macro and in crypto, where the strong performance has been at by looking at different sectors and coins that are leading the charge, which coins have good data. We've talked a lot about developer activity and total value locked, or TVL, and those factors that have worked historically and which coins are meeting those standards right now. And of course, looking ahead and how the market historically plays from here. Comes with a 33-minute audio voiceover that I personally record. If videos are more of your thing, of course, you can check out bcbacker.com, which has over 40 videos and 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts and indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. There are links in the descriptions of each of my videos to bcbacker.com and to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, have an absolutely wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.